Have you ever stopped to think that no matter where you look on the planet, the fundamental story is always the same? Christians await the second coming of Christ. Jews await the Messiah. Muslims await the Mahdi. Hindus await the Kalki avatar. The native peoples of the Americas still look to the horizon expecting the return of Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan. It seems the entire human race suffers from a collective abandonment syndrome. We are all standing here, looking at the sky, waiting for someone to come down to fix the world, punish the wicked, and save us from ourselves. But what if I told you that all these religions are simultaneously right and wrong? What if this global expectation is not the fruit of spiritual faith, but of a traumatic memory of a real event? To understand the truth about the return, we need to step out of sacred texts and look at modern anthropology. We need to visit a small island in the South Pacific called Tanna, in the archipelago of Vanuatu. It is there that we find the key to deciphering the Bible and the Sumerian texts. During World War II, the islanders of Tanna, who lived in an isolated tribal society, saw something that shattered their reality. Thousands of American soldiers arrived. To the natives, these men were not ordinary humans. They were magical beings. They didn't hunt, they didn't fish, and they didn't plant crops, yet they had infinite food. They had noisy silver birds that descended from the sky, and from inside the bellies of these birds came boxes full of wonders: clothes, medicine, tools, chocolate. The natives observed everything. They saw the soldiers wearing specific uniforms. They saw them marching in organized lines. And, most intriguing to them, they saw the soldiers put on headphones, speak into strange metal boxes with antennas, and shortly after this ritual, the birds would descend with the cargo. When the war ended, the Americans left. The cargo stopped coming. And what did the natives do? They created a religion, the so-called cargo cult of John Frum. To make the gods return, they began to imitate the technological rituals. They cleared clearings in the jungle to create landing strips. They built control towers made of bamboo and rope. They carved wooden headphones and bamboo antennas. The priests sat in these towers, mimicking the gestures of American flight controllers, looking at the sky day and night, praying for the planes to return. They believed that if they repeated the gestures perfectly, the gods would be obligated to bring the cargo back. Erich von Däniken, the father of ancient astronaut theory, uses this example to give us a slap in the face. We are the natives of Tanna. The only difference between us and them is time. Instead of straw planes, we built stone temples. Instead of bamboo headphones, we use mitres, kippas, and ceremonial robes. Instead of imitating soldiers, we imitate the Anunnaki. The Bible, the Mahabharata, and the Book of Enoch are accounts of a millennia-old cargo cult. Our ancestors saw beings descending in noisy vehicles, wearing shiny spacesuits and carrying weapons that emitted beams. They didn't have a word for technology, so they called it glory. They didn't have a word for commander, so they called him Lord. And here is the scariest point. Before leaving, these visitors made a promise. They said, "We will be back." To religion, this is a promise of salvation. But to ufology, this sounds much more like a logistical schedule, a military appointment. And the burning question is, has the deadline for this appointment expired now? Why are we talking about this with such urgency today, in January 2026? Because something fundamentally changed in the last year. Researcher Paul Wallis, author of the Eden series, made a very specific prediction a few years ago. He analyzed legislative movements in the United States, the pressure for UFO transparency, and ancient texts. His conclusion was direct. The year 2025 would be the most embarrassing year in history for Christian churches. He predicted that in 2025, the dam of secrecy would break. The reality that we are not alone in the universe would cease to be a conspiracy theory and become an administrative fact. And he was right. Look at the past year. We saw the UFO topic move from obscure internet forums to congressional hearings. We saw military pilots and intelligence officers coming forward under the protection of new laws. The narrative that we are God's only special creation has collapsed. Churches are now, at this very moment, racing against time to rewrite their theologies. But the Vatican, as always, seems to have received the memo before everyone else. Long before this wave of revelations, key figures in the Catholic Church were already preparing the ground. Monsignor Corrado Balducci, a senior Vatican exorcist and personal friend of the Pope, went on Italian national television several times to say something shocking. Extraterrestrial encounters are real. They are not demonic. They are not the result of psychosis. According to Balducci, these beings are part of God's creation, cosmic brothers who deserve respect. In 2008, the Vatican's chief astronomer, Father José Gabriel Funes, declared that believing in aliens does not contradict the Catholic faith. Why would the Church make these statements decades before official confirmation? The answer is simple. They knew the return was imminent. Paul Wallis suggests that Bible translations were deliberately altered over the centuries to hide the plural and physical nature of God, Elohim, transforming it into a singular spiritual entity. They hid the contact to maintain control. But now in 2026, with ships being filmed in high definition and governments admitting they don't control airspace, the cargo cult is being exposed. The promise of return is being fulfilled, not in a mystical way, but in a physical one. And that leads us to the most dangerous question of all. If they are coming back, who are they? Friends or enemies? To know if we should celebrate or fear this return, we need to understand why we were created. And the answer is not in the simplified Genesis we learned in Sunday school. The answer lies in the clay tablets of ancient Sumer, specifically the Epic of Atrahasis. The story Sumer tells is brutally pragmatic. Before human beings existed, the gods, Anunnaki, were already on Earth. But they didn't come for tourism. They came to extract resources, gold, minerals, rare elements. But the great gods, like Enlil and Enki, didn't dirty their hands. The heavy lifting was done by a lower caste of astronauts or workers called the Igigi. For thousands of years, the Igigi were forced to dig riverbeds, open canals, and descend into the dark mines of Africa, the Abzu. The Sumerian text is clear and painful. The work was heavy, the misery was great. Tired of millennia of slavery, the Igigi did something that sounds incredibly human. They organized a mutiny. They burned their tools, surrounded Commander Enlil's palace in the middle of the night, and demanded an end to forced labor. It was the first labor strike in the history of the planet. Enlil, the strict commander, wanted to execute the rebels. But Enki, the chief scientist and Enlil's half-brother, proposed a technical solution. He said, "Do not kill the Igigi. Let us create a substitute worker, a primitive being capable of understanding orders and handling tools, to carry the burden of the gods." That was how the human project was born. Enki and the geneticist Ninhursag entered the House of Life, Bit Shimti, and began mixing the DNA of a terrestrial hominid, probably Homo erectus, with the essence, DNA, of the Anunnaki themselves. After many failures and genetic monsters, they arrived at the Lulu Amelu, the mixed worker, us. This changes the perspective of the return completely. We were not created out of divine love. We were created to break a strike. We are essentially mining biotechnology that gained consciousness. And here lies the current danger. Sumerian tradition shows there were two main factions with opposing views on us. 1. The faction of Enki, the genetic father, the one who defended us, who gave us knowledge, the serpent of Eden, and who, according to some texts, wanted to elevate us to the category of partners. 2. The faction of Enlil, the cold administrator, the one who viewed us merely as noisy livestock, who was annoyed by our uncontrolled reproduction, and who, when he had the chance, tried to exterminate us with the flood. If the ships are returning now in 2026, the million-dollar question is, who is in command of the fleet? If it's Enki's faction, perhaps we are about to be invited into the galactic community. But if it's Enlil's faction returning to inspect his property, what will they see? They will see 8 billion workers who have destroyed the ecosystem, created weapons capable of threatening the creators, and stopped obeying. To a planetary administrator like Enlil, modern humanity might look like a failed experiment that needs to be reset again. Many still think this is just an interpretation of ancient texts, but if we look at the actions of the global elite, we will see they are preparing for a physical, material, and technological event. Let's go back to the Vatican. In addition to preparing theology, they have invested heavily in astronomy. Atop Mount Graham in Arizona, the Vatican maintains one of the most advanced observatories in the world, and coupled to its main telescope, there is an infrared instrument with a name that seems like a bad joke but is real: L.U.C.I.F.E.R. The technical acronym is LONG, Large Binocular Telescope Near Infrared Utility. But the choice of acronym cannot be a coincidence. Why would the Church name its star surveillance instrument after the fallen angel? What are they looking for in the infrared spectrum? The late Father Malachi Martin, a Jesuit insider, stated before he died that the Vatican was monitoring something approaching Earth, something that would force a complete change in our understanding of reality. If we connect this to the Bible with Erich von Daniken's view, it all makes sense. The book of Revelation speaks of the descent of the New Jerusalem, but the description is not of a city, it is of a structure. John describes a gigantic cube of pure gold, shining like glass, coming down from the sky. In modern engineering, we would describe this as a geometric mothership, a space ark. And what happens when this city arrives? The Bible speaks of the rapture. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. For centuries we thought this was God saving good souls, but Mauro Biglino, an official Vatican translator who analyzed the original Hebrew texts, says the word glory, kavod, always refers to a heavy, dangerous object. In the view of paleo-ufology, the rapture is not mystical, it is a harvest, it is the selection of specimens. Just as scientists go into the jungle and collect samples of a species before a dam floods the area, the gods may be returning to save pure genetic code before a new cycle of destruction. The massive increase in UFOs we are seeing now, the tic-tacs, the spheres, the lights disabling nuclear silos, is not random. They are doing reconnaissance. They are testing our defenses. The Vatican knows, the Pentagon knows. The 2025 deadline has passed, the alarm has rung, and now we are just waiting for the arrival of the cleanup crew. Faced with all this, the cargo cult in Vanuatu, Paul Wallis's predictions coming true, the Igigi Revolt in Sumer, and the telescopes pointed at the sky. What are we left with? Fear? Panic? No. What remains for us is maturity. The big difference between the return we expect and the visit that happened 12,000 years ago is who we are today. Back then, we were like the natives of Tana, innocent, without technological reference, easy to impress with a lighter or a flashlight. We were scared children facing magical giants. But we grew up. Today, we have split the atom. We have mapped the very genome they edited. We created artificial intelligence. We sent our own probes out of the solar system. If the Anunnaki return today expecting to find submissive servants who worship magic clouds, they are in for a surprise. They will find an adolescent humanity, troubled, armed, and dangerous, but one that has begun to awaken. The Great Awakening everyone talks about is not an event where lights come down to save us. It is a cognitive event. It is the moment humanity realizes that outsourced salvation is a lie. No one is coming down from the clouds to pay our debts, clean our oceans, or solve our wars. That responsibility is ours. Paul Wallis and Matthew Lacroix remind us that our ancestors left these records not to be worshipped, but to be read as manuals. They wanted us to know the truth about our origin, that we are hybrids, that we are a feat of engineering, that we are the children of a strike, so that we wouldn't be deceived again. The second coming doesn't have to be the end of the world. It can be the end of our childhood, the end of the cargo cult. It is the moment we stop building straw planes and look up, not as kneeling slaves, but as sovereign beings ready to look our creators in the eye and ask, "Why did you abandon us? And what do you want now?" The year 2026 marks the beginning of this new era. The promise was made. The deadline is over. The signs are in the sky. The only question left is, are you prepared for the truth, or do you prefer to keep waiting for the cargo? Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support us and become a member to get exclusive access to audio versions of our material. It helps us a lot. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Until next time.